Welcome to another Let's Think About It podcast. I'm your host, Coach Mo, and I'm here with another amazing guest. Her name is Coach D, the famous, the one and only, the brain Coach D. What's up?
Hello, hello. What can I say? Yes, the one and only. Yes, the famous. Keep it coming so my brain can release even more.
That's right. That's right. First, you got to tell us where you coming in from.
I'm in Houston, Texas, and I'm a girl that just jumps around different cities when I coach and train and work with companies. But right now, Houston, Texas is home.
Born and raised?
Oh, heck no. I'm Polish. I'm the original Eastern European lady with the Polish Eastern European attitude and a lot of love.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So tell us, let's jump right into this. I'm an action guy and you're a brain coach, D. What is that? What
So
does brain coaches do?
I'm an elite neuro-encoding specialist and a brain coach. Two things that are combined for optimizing your brain. So we can close the gap based on science, get you from point where you are, where you want to be in the quickest way without medication. It works for procrastination, hesitation, fear of failure, fear of success, self-doubt, self-loathing, anxiety, depression, PTSD, recreating your life if you have ADHD, overwhelm, procrastination, and few other things that are possible to be treated without medication. And brain coaching, I've been trained by Dr. Daniel Amen. It is a mix of neuroscience, knowledge about what's basal ganglia, what's prefrontal cortex, and
Right.
what they do, knowing which exercises stimulate what, understanding how blood work influences your brain, and looking at your blood work because maybe you're not depressed. Maybe you just need to up level and optimize, put it at an optimum level, your blood work. Maybe you are having problems with concentrations because your hormones are off. And although I don't treat that, I understand that and I can direct you to the right doctor that can optimize the levels. It is also coaching approach and psychology, and especially neuropsychology. And that's where neuro-encoding comes in, which I'm trained by Dr. Joseph McClendon III, the phenomenal, the one head trainer for Tony Robbins. And he's my guru, and he created the neuro-encoding institute and he trained me in that. So it's also understanding that your body is connected to your heart, where we already know from Heart Math Institute that we can change your brain waves with your heart and change your physical reactions and the cocktails of hormones and chemicals that you release because you're an addict. I don't know if you're addicted to your feelings. So we can
Yeah.
change that. We can interrupt that. We can actually optimize. Imagine not feeling anxiety, not feeling hesitation, not feeling procrastination, any type of fear, self-doubt, self-loathing. All of those feelings are neural pathways in your brains. And because we understand when you get stuck and you keep rewinding those things over and you're exhausted, guess what? We can change that. And we can change that with very simple exercises, with food that you eat, which is crucial in your brain health. Because guess what? The CEO of your life is your freaking brain.
Okay. That's
It
right.
decides what you're thinking, what you're doing, what you're saying, what you're looking at, how you react, how you feel, how your heart functions, everything. And
And you know something? This is why I'm happy you're here. You know why I'm happy you're here? This
no.
is the start of Mental Awareness Month,
Oh, yes, it is.
and you're dropping nuggets. And so I love that. I love that, right? So the concept around neural recording, brain coaching, like how does that start to, how do you help a person shift their thought process even to reach out for you for that type of support in those areas? Because people may have a misconception around what a brain coach is.
I'm not going to convince you. You need to be uncomfortable. You need to say to yourself, okay, I'm done. For example, I had a girl who came to me and they said, you need to take an anxiety medication. She goes, can you do something about that? I don't want to go on medication. I'm like, are you in an acute state? Are you suicidal? We went through the whole thing. She goes, she was fine. She just had huge anxiety to the point where she would go in a public place and she would either throw up or faint. That's how bad
Okay.
it was. And they said, you need to go on medication. I'm like, do you want to give me a try? Because she came to me, she goes, I will try anything. I'm like, okay. And that's first thing. Coaching, brain coaching, neuron coding, nothing works unless you choose it for you to work. Because after age of 25, our neuroplasticity changes. It's not automatic. It has to be directed and chosen by you for your brain to rewire. And just to be very clear, it's not a mental health month. It's a brain health month. If your brain is not healthy, you are making bad decisions. You are taking drugs. If your brain is not healthy, you have anxiety, you have fear, you have panic attacks. All of that comes from your brain. So that person
Mm,
needs to know that they're ready and they're done with their life, that there is a gap, that they want to be a person who goes out and enjoys spending time with people. And she was. So we looked at her habits, her time outside, her visceral system. We looked at the circadian rhythms, we looked at her brain, we did some assessments, we looked at the food she ate, the type of movements she did, what was triggering her anxiety. And we took all of that and created exercises that she did daily and checked in with me, because with me, you work once a week, but we check in during the week to make sure you're on track, because the goal is that you're going to have a new behavioral pattern. Your brain creates
right.
patterns all the time without you knowing about it. And the key is to realize. So we did all of those. And after about I think it was 3 weeks, she calls me Dominica. I'm like, what? I didn't faint. Didn't faint where? Because I was doing something. I went to a networking meeting. I didn't throw up. I didn't faint. I'm like, fantastic. Let's celebrate. So we celebrated. And it took about another 4 weeks when I get another text. Of course, we were meeting in between times, so I was seeing the progress, but it's not me who needs to see the progress. It's you when you're working with it. And she texts
Absolutely.
me, Coach D. I'm like, what? I spoke to 5 people. It was amazing. And that was,
Right.
and then we just reinforced that and made sure we celebrated those wins. And guess what? Medication was never needed. She went to a psychiatrist and goes, are you ready? She goes, I think I'm good. Goes, what do you mean you're good? I had coaching.
Exactly.
And you know
Woo,
what?
woo, woo, woo.
Yep. And what's amazing, started seeing psychiatrists and they're going, there are a lot of people who say they're depressed and they come to me. And I literally saw 4 different psychiatrists board certified in different areas. And they go, we prescribe the mirror exercise. I prescribed the mirror exercise. And basically it turned out they weren't depressed. They just needed some dopamine release and they were doing just fine. So they weren't my client anymore. And I'm like, duh. We coaches have been doing the mirror exercise for the last at least 10 years. Welcome to psychiatry, because depression is not really a depression. Now, don't get me wrong, there is clinical depression that needs medication.
Yeah.
Brain coaching will not really help at the beginning, later on, maybe. And there are certain types of depressions that do need assistance of medication, just to be very clear. But a lot of people feel down, feel low, feel sad, and those things can be mitigated. And also, hey guys, life is just a
Right.
beautiful flower that has all the different colors and bouquets. You do need to feel down. You do need to
Right.
be soft. You do need to be angry. You do need to be frustrated. And you do need to be in love and happy and have anxiety. The question is, are you staying there and living in those moments? And you create habits and behaviors and you get the secondary gain. People who are
Hmm.
always unhappy, what happens is people with good hearts gather around them and they create
Right.
connection. But that connection is fake connection because it's built on the neediness. Those people are afraid, if I will not say that I'm unhappy, will they come or will I be alone? And in
Yes.
addition, it becomes a relationship that is destroying everybody around. But that's a different conversation. Anyway, brain coaching, it is using science, knowledge of your brain, blood work, understanding the hormones, what influences. Hey, if you say you have ADHD, have you checked for gut inflammation? Because if you have gut inflammation, that might present as ADHD and you don't have ADHD. And if you have tunnel concentration, it doesn't mean you have ADHD, because people without ADHD also can do that. Notice all the kids around the world when they're playing their favorite video game. Hours can pass and they're not noticing. Not all of them have ADHD. Anyway, neuro-encoding is the technique that we use to break the pattern, to decipher, or EMDR even, right? To
Mm-hmm.
connect feelings with the event so you can still remember the event but not get triggered. And the truth is, every time you get triggered, that means there's something unhealed in you. It's not the world around you. It is something that you didn't heal in you. And that's an information. There are no bad feelings. I was having a chat today. There are no bad feelings. There are no negative feelings. They don't exist. All feelings are information systems that something is off, that something is not working, that something happened before, that you might have a belief or your brain is processing some information in a different way. It's an informational system. The moment we stop hanging our lives on those informations and start actually using
Yes.
that information, it's a whole new world. Welcome
And you
to
know what? It's
wonderful
funny
humans.
in how in what you're saying, you know how you utilize that is as the trigger to shift into something more positive. Gratitude thought, right? If you feeling like afraid, worrisome, and you got this anxiety feeling, maybe that's the first sign to shift your thought and utilize that trigger not as something negative and bad is about to happen, but this is the time that I'm being triggered to do something positive. This is my time to have a gratitude thought. This is my time to take action, whatever that looks like for myself. But my question to you is, how relevant is gratitude into your whole
Oh,
helping people getting
it's
through
huge.
fear and things like that?
So gratitude change. So gratitude is not really relevant into getting out of fear because that needs a different physical pattern interrupt and different, little bit different techniques. Although I'm not saying it doesn't work. I don't use it that way. But gratitude has been, they have been checking blood work and brain functioning when people are going into the state of gratitude. And it literally
Hmm.
does wonders for your brain, including calms down the nervous system, allows your brain to focus more, allows your brain to release more happy cocktails, chemicals, and it allows you to be more. Now, the funny thing with gratitude is that people go, oh, I'm grateful for my family, I'm grateful for my kids, I'm grateful for my job. That doesn't work. Gratitude and prayer have the same, and meditation have the same elements of your brain lighting up. And they're both great for you, but you have to really feel it. It cannot be ungrateful. Like people pray over food, oh, thank you, Lord, for the, and it's just reciting, it doesn't work. But if you get to the point where you feel ecstasy and you really feel joyful and you can bring those feelings out, it influences your brain, and your brain then does wonders for you. So gratitude is also important that when you practice it, you are able to feel it to the full extent with your whole body. So have the proper chemical release to influence your brain, and also do not repeat the same things over and over. So what we're teaching our brain is to notice positive things in our life. I'm grateful that man opened the door for me. I'm grateful that lady at a counter smiled at me. I'm
Yep.
grateful that it was a beautiful day outside and I had the chance to sit outside for 15 minutes. Now, every day we change those. What we do, we retrain our mind to look for things that we can be grateful for. And at the end of the day, it's funny because people go, today I had a client, she goes, I have a horrible day. It was a bad day. I'm like, tell me about it. I was driving to a doctor and then there was an accident and I was late, but they still took me in. So what was horrible about that they took you in? It wasn't horrible. Oh, okay. So what else happened? I forgot a coffee maker. Okay. And the Starbucks they made at Starbucks was horrible. I'm like, okay, so you're telling me your whole day was horrible, that you got into a doctor, you were late, but they took you in, you forgot a creamer, and your Starbucks was horrible, correct? And when she heard that, she started laughing. She goes, no, it
Right.
wasn't. I'm like, so how else can you name this? Because your brain, my brain, every brain is designed to lump everything together. And notice that when something good happens, we don't go around telling everybody something good happened. But when something happens that ticks us off, we literally talk about it for days,
Right.
remembering, refeeling. We literally hurt ourselves without knowing.
Let's say very fearful mindset. Okay.
Mhm.
And fear of failure. Let's just say that as a topic, and for the sake of this question. Someone that's fear of failure, what are some tips that you can give a person that they can implement right now to help them overcome, or steps to overcome the fear of failure?
First of all, fear is a physical reaction. So I want you to notice how you're sitting, how you're breathing. And when you feel the fear coming, change your breathing, change the way you sit, possibly stand up. If you ever heard of power pose, it works great. Go to a closet, restroom, stall, whatever, lock yourself in and do the power pose for 3 minutes. That's one thing. Second thing, you need to prove to your brain that it's lying to you, and your brain lies to you on a daily basis. It will always prove you're right, but it will always lie to you. So what I mean by that, I want
Flawed element of thought appearing to be real. Flawed element of thought appearing to be real. That's what I characterize as fear. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interject, but
you're
go
good.
ahead.
You're good. So what I want you to do is when you feel that, I want you to tell your brain, okay, when did I fail in life? And I want you to bring back all the memories of failure and then ask yourself, and what happened next? The answer is absolutely nothing. You need to
Right.
decipher that feeling from a logical perspective, not only from the emotional, behavioral, and physical, but also from logical. Your brain needs proof for everything. You need to prove to your brain that it's BSing you. So I'm a failure. Okay. What does a failure mean? It's like I had a client, a gentleman, and he kept saying that he's a failure. So we went into conversation. What's a failure? What's your definition of failure? Because everybody has a different definition. It turned out that in his mind, anybody who it doesn't have a regular job is a failure. I'm like, okay. And why do you need a regular job? Because I need to support my wife. I need to pay the bills. I need this and that. I'm like, okay, I understand. That's very good. And when was the last time you didn't pay your bills? What do you mean? I'm paying my bills. Oh, okay. Were you able to take your wife lately on a date? Yeah, we go out once a week. Oh, okay. And we started going, and I'm like, okay, so having a stable job means paying those bills. Are you doing that? I am. And it was his epiphany going,
Yep.
okay, so maybe I'm not a failure. Now, does he meet this regular standards of living? Probably not. But he realized that his definition was flawed. And every time you feel something, and if you don't want to feel it, we need to prove to ourselves that the definition is flawed so we can readjust the definition. There was another gentleman who believed that you're a failure if you're not making $1 million a year. He was making 850,000. That was a little bit more challenging, but we also did dismantling that belief and connecting that
Right.
to a different feeling. And then it takes repetition. It's not one time.
Repetition.
Mother
I
of
agree, because we carry that story in our mind and we believe
Mhm.
that story to be true, and we live through that story. And sometimes that story can be so strong that we ignore the facts that go against that story in our mind, that we're so locked in that the way that I see it is the only way to see it. And if it's that way, that's how I got to live my life. That's how I got to move. And if that requires that fear's being present, I'm okay with the fear because that's the story I believe in my head.
See, fear is also a protective mechanism because usually fear of failure is not really fear of failure. Fear of failure is the fear of being rejected or not being loved. And
Yep.
that's the fear under fear. And we all want to be loved. We all want to feel like we belong and we all want to be a part of something, if you admit to it or not, either your dog, your friend, your community, whatever that might be. Loneliness is the biggest killer of all people. And actually, there are some studies now showing that some people, about 12% of population of the world, will never feel belonging because of their brain structures. It's impossible for them to feel it. Now, with that, you need a scan. And so it's not like you can ask few questions, you'll know. There are brain scans that will show you that potentially. There are a few studies that are showing that there are certain structures in the brain, if they're underdeveloped, you're unable to feel belonging, and loneliness is your predominant feeling. See, your brain, for example, anterior cingulate or basal ganglia, they have their functions, and they are like gear shifters. For example, if you're very much in your logic and thinking and planning, so your prefrontal cortex is working, if you damage that, for example, and adrenaline overrides, then you're a person who's looking for thrills. And those thrills are basically underdevelop your prefrontal cortex. So there are ways we can mitigate that. We can make it work for somebody. Sometimes medication is necessary, but very often supplements and lifestyle changes in food, which food is so important in brain health. So important, guys. Lack of movement and wrong food can literally change your life for the worse. Movement is absolutely necessary. Circadian rhythms, taking into consideration being outside for 30, 40 minutes a day, 20 at least in the morning, are so important for your brain, for everything to function. The food you eat, how much sugar. I'm not going to be purist here. I drink 1 coffee a day. I like coffee, but I'm not going to. Alcohol, it kills your brain cells, period. It makes your little vessels even smaller. You're not getting enough oxygen into your brain, and that's not good. There are scans of people who have been drinking for a long time where you literally see holes in their brain, which means there's no oxygen and no functioning of that area of the brain. The beautiful thing about the brain is one of the few organs in your body that can regenerate.
What would be your recommendation? Like food, what would be the recommendation for
Get rid
people?
of all, I'm not saying get rid of all the processed foods, but definitely get rid of chips, get rid of fast foods. Those two things. If you must drink a fizzy drink, a soft drink, have it once a week. If you must have fast food, have it once a week. Do not have that on a daily basis. There is no nutritional value. Meat, even potatoes are better, but not French fries, potatoes. Very big difference. Reduce the number of bad fats. Include, if you don't like vegetables, I, for example, taught my girls eating vegetables, I would make, and I still make cauliflower pancakes, and from all the greens, I make pancakes. There are different versions you can serve that. There are ways to prepare that it's good, that it's fun. Meat is important, but then if you really don't like meat, try proteins in a different way, right? So make sure that you are eating something that is fueling you, because if you eat good food, you will eat less. Now, the sad
Yeah.
part is about our brain, that the size of your brain correlates with your weight. The more obese you are, the smaller your brain is. Now, it's not going to shrink into the size, but comparatively, compared to people of a normal weight. And it's not about being skinny. It's not even about BMI. Right now, waist to hip ratio is way better option for all races and all types of people than BMI. But it is important that you keep your weight under control. It is for your brain, for the decision-making skills, for, and don't get me wrong, there are some people that are struggling, that are trying, that are sick, and they have problems with metabolism, but that is all a part of your brain health.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's not much I can say. I'm not shaming anybody. I literally, if I would not live the way I live, I would be 50 pounds heavier.
Yeah.
But since I remember, I walk 4 times a week, 5 miles. I go and make sure don't eat after 5 p.m. I try as much as I can to have balanced meals. And if I want a snack, I have a fruit. I do absolutely everything in my power to at least keep it not to go into obesity, even if
Yeah.
I'm a few extra pounds, and I'm not skinny. I'm so-called curvy, thick, whatever, but I am still around size 12.
Right.
So it's not about being skinny, because being too skinny is not good either. And if you see a woman with abs, most likely her mental health is not doing too well because this is not something women can sustain for a long period of time. We're not built that way. But that's fitness. You can talk to fitness people about that, but it does have influence on your brain. So
Yeah.
everything in moderation. Go outside, go for a freaking walk with a dog instead of having, I don't know, grits. And like when I go to breakfasts, I literally can't find anything that's healthy. It's freaking sausages, eggs, grits, and something. I'm like, where's the
Right.
health part in that? Create your own healthy. Read what you like and create your own breakfast. It's not about having what everybody else is having. So that's one part. Your brain health, your mental health, it is directly correlated also, as Les Brown says, you become who you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
If you're surrounded by people who are taking drugs, doing bad things, not going to work, being defiant, whatever else, this is your environment. Your brain is being fed constantly that this is okay, and it starts to adjust. You don't want to adjust to that. You
Right.
you win when you choose what's good for you and you know what's good for you. It doesn't say it's easy.
Right.
Grit is
Right.
something that is not easy, but it pays. And it's not about hard work, it's about smart work. It's
Right.
about being people who inspire you and not comparing yourself, but looking for inspiration. What I want you to do for your brain health and your mental health, I want you to look at yourself yesterday. Did you do better than yesterday compared to you?
Right.
Compared to you, because you have your own path, and celebrate the living heck out of it. The way
And let me ask you this, from your coaching style and techniques, let's say someone who's struggling with smoking and they want to quit and they can't and they having a hard time. And it all goes back to habits and everything like that. How do you help them in that regard
So
from a
when it comes to
habits
smoking,
and
there's a little bit more because it's a chemical addiction as well. And
yeah.
I used to be a smoker,
Okay.
2 packs a day, red Marlboro, for since I was 16 till I was 38.
Okay.
And it was probably one of the hardest things I ever did quitting. So with smoking, I actually recommend hypnosis, and I've seen phenomenal results with hypnosis. And then coming to me, and we learn something called stop technique, and we create new habits for instead of that, because we need to know when we smoked. We need to know where was the pleasure, because there's always a pleasure. We do things because we like them. We don't
Mm-hmm.
do things because they hurt us. Remember, even smoking, we drink because we like that. We smoke because we like that. So whatever it
Right.
was, we're looking for those triggers that made you feel good. And then we create new patterns, new behaviors for those. And I love referring people out to different specialists because that works quicker. My goal is not to have you with me for another 5 years. I want you to be done and be good. And remember that you're an adult, so you will need to choose every day. There was a beautiful conversation running around on Instagram where a man was talking to his fiance and he goes, "What happens if I find somebody better after we're married?" And she goes, "That's all?" And he goes, "What do you mean that's all?" She goes, "Of course you're going to find somebody better. They're going to be always younger women. They're going to be dressed better. They're going to have more energy. They're not going to have wrinkles as I do. What you need to do is choose every day
Yep.
because there will be somebody better along the way." And that's the same with every addiction. For I think 5 years, it took me every day choosing not to smoke. I don't have that thought anymore. It took me 5 years of going, hey, I didn't smoke yesterday. Awesome. Let's make it another day. And then there was this typical situation for me for smoking. I'm like, hey, I can last for 5 more minutes. And then
Right.
it go away. And it was longer and longer. And then about 5 years, and I was like, okay, I'm good. It took me 5 years of choosing every day not to pick
Con-
up another cigarette.
Congratulations. That's huge. What's your journey? Tell us, how did you get to say, I want to be a brain coach? What was that?
Oh, that's a long story, but it's
Give us the short version then.
short version. So, as or you don't know, I was born in Eastern Europe. I'm Polish, and I lived in a country where happiness and joy is considered a manifestation of stupidity. That is very important. When I was 19, I was in an extremely abusive relationship where I went through everything from rape to gun to my head, very poor choice of men. And I had a son with that gentleman with whom I later on ran away because that was Europe. I could do that. If I was in Texas, probably I couldn't because they would say I'm kidnapping my kid. And my son died. My son died at 16 months. And then I don't remember 2 years of my life. To hide the pain, I became extremely successful. I was the youngest and the best at everything, invited to media and TV and newspapers, Eastern European Union, working with presidents. I did everything you can imagine. And people were, oh my God, you're so strong. You're so amazing. You're so fantastic. And I would come home and cry every day. I was the most miserable woman in the world, like most women who pretend to be strong. And I know a lot of women listening to this can resonate.
Yeah.
And we pretend to be strong because we have no other choice. And there's nobody else to take that from us so we can go back into our feminine self. At the same time, I was also an epileptic. So I would have seizures and people would assume I'm a drug addict because a for grand mal seizure on a TV is only presented when people are taking drugs. So automatically people assume I was drug addict, which I never taken any drugs. I smoked, but I didn't take drugs. And then after my son died, I got married. I had my beautiful baby twins. I got divorced and life just, I was like, there is no way this is supposed to be life. It sucks. I hate it. I want to die. And I used a psychologist, therapist, and then I run into a coach. And she was phenomenal because what coaches do, good coaches, we take you here and now and we pace you into the future. We don't look into the past. The past we cannot change.
Yep.
We can change how you feel about the past, but we cannot change the past. And usually your brain already distorted, generalize everything. But when I would, and I have a scientific brain, I have masters of science in sociology and education, postgraduate in HR. And I was like, but why does it work? She goes, it just does, trust me. And I was looking for something. And then one day after all the events, me healing, me working on me 4 years ago, and I was a career coach at that time. I stopped doing that. I'm like, okay, maybe I need a different path. And about 4 or 5 years ago, I ran into something called the Brain Revolution, which was done with Dr. Joseph McClendon III, Tony Robbins, head trainer, phenomenal guy at the Neuro-encoding Institute, and Dr. Amen. And what they did was, I was in love because Dr. Amen is a neuropsychiatrist who believes to do everything possible before you go on medication. And Dr. McClendon is a neuropsychologist, and they merged their programs. And I fell in love because finally I could understand how I'm helping people. And if somebody would ask me, like I asked my coach, why does it work? I have plenty of backup science studies, Stanford. I top that up with Dr. Huberman, who I absolutely love and gives a lot of tips. Very difficult podcast to listen to. But if you're a fanatic like me, you will listen. And I love his voice. Oh God, his voice is so sexy. And I went, okay, I found my place because I love science. And I believe that science is an option for a lot of things. I wanted to understand, for example, a long time ago, why the hell do people pray? What's up with praying? And why so many people are looking to collect and be in a church? Because let's just say Polish church is not very something you want to experience. And science gave me that answer. I know what happens in your brain when you're in church. I know
Mm-hmm.
what happens when you're praying when you're in church. I know why a lot of people who truly believe in God are joyful and the happiest and the most caring and warm people because it changes your brain literally. Now,
Right.
there are other ways to achieve that besides being religious, truly religious. And but I found all the answers I needed to go, okay, there is a chance for me. And because of Dr. Amen, I used to be on 2,000 units of medication for epilepsy. I'm on 500. I was for 23 years on antidepressants because they're automatically prescribed with medication for seizures. I've been off of them for the last 4 years, not touched,
Wow.
no need. I'm on a supplement that's made of saffron and helps me produce dopamine, plus neuro-encoding, exercising, stop techniques, and a few other things that we do. I do it on myself. So I know it works. And imagine waking up every freaking day after being depressed for such a long time and going, oh my God, it's going to be a great day. I'm curious what's going to be great today.
Absolutely. That's how I wake up. That's how I wake up.
So that's my journey. And I've decided that because it's science-based and I feel comfortable talking about it, and I feel comfortable studying, and I feel grounded in what I'm doing. No, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a psychologist, but I'm phenomenally trained for what I do. And I also know my place. So when it's time to pass you on to a doctor, I will.
Yes.
Not
Yes.
everything can be done. And I would like to invite everybody, look for the best version for you. Because some things like hoarding, I believe there are some phenomenal therapists out there who are phenomenally trained for hoarding. I don't know many coaches that deal with hoarding because it's a very complex issue. If you have bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, that's definitely a psychiatry. That's not a coaching issue. Now, we can teach you some managing techniques, but you need to be managed by a psychiatrist because that does require medication. Understanding the brain body heart connection, which was given to me. Do you know that we finished that training over 4 years ago and we still have 4 calls a week with additional training? So I'm definitely, I know what I'm doing. And I also know if I cannot help you, and that happens too. And I
Yeah.
also know that sometimes the way we feel is just simple things. So we're getting out of the way the simple things. I'll ask you to go and do blood work, specific blood work that influences how you feel in your brain. And we're
Yeah.
going to look at it if it's optimum or is it in the norm. And then I'm going to say, hey, why don't you talk to your doctor? Because the optimum is here according to Dr. Amen, and you're here. I'm not going to prescribe anything, but I'm going to tell you what is suggested by Dr. Amen. We'll run you through some brain assessments. We'll see how your brain is functioning. Maybe you need food adjustment. And it happened to me quite a few times where people came, we did the whole assessment thing, and they go, you know what? I don't think I need your help. I'm like, I didn't think you did. But it was a simple thing, simple fix. Let's try to find the best way. And sometimes what I do doesn't work. And there are other people that are phenomenal. Maybe you need ketamine treatment. Maybe you need biofeedback. Maybe you need neurofeedback. Maybe you need oxygenation chamber or you need oxygenation bath that helps your brain to regenerate. There's so many things that we can do with brain coaching, and it allows me to give you options. Now,
Right.
some
And how can my audience find you if someone is interested in your service?
Your Brain Coach D everywhere. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on not TikTok, Instagram. You can find me on Facebook under Your Brain Coach D. You can also find me under my first and last name, Dominika Staniewicz, and that's on LinkedIn, Facebook, and my private Instagram. I'll leave it out of it. And if you're a woman, a special woman, that you're running a business or you're a manager with over 4 years of experience, there's a special group for you only for women where we translate masculine systems into feminine perspective while enjoying everything that was served to us by men without bashing them, without hating on them, but taking a lot in and translating into the way we see the world. Because as Dr. Amen says, our brains are different. And the brains that created the present systems were male brains, fantastic brains, amazing. Look how many great things they've created. And it's now time for us to add our perspective so we have more options how to be leaders in a feminine style, because there are not many women who lead from the guiding perspective, not from the leadership perspective.
There it is. We are so blessed. I'm blessed to have you today and receive all of this wisdom. What are some lasting thoughts you would like to share?
I think I have two quotes that I want to share with you. They're not mine, but I think they're very prominent and important. If you are in hell and you're suffering and struggling, keep walking because even hell has a border. And number two, on our own, we can only experience certain amount of joy and happiness. To feel more, start sharing it with others.
Thank you. Powerful. Coach D, I appreciate you. Thank you.
I appreciate being your guest. Thank you.